Oh, howdy all, grab yourselves a beer. It is time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today, what I wanted to do is update my Atlas of Worlds guide for 3.10, which is the Delirium League, updating it with both the changes that happened between 3.9 and 3.10, and also condensing it. Now, we know a lot more than we did at the time that I made the Metamorph guide to the Atlas. Things have become understood better, and as a result, I can condense this quite a bit. So firstly, the very first step, when you kill Kitava in Act 10, you're going to need to talk to a new NPC in Oriath, and this is Officer Kirac. Your goal here is to get Officer Kirac and a map device into your hideout. All you'll need to do is find Officer Kirac in Oriath, talk to him. He'll give you 3 little fetch quests, which will involve a little bit of fighting in monster level 68 zones. These will be pretty easy. But if you're in hardcore, of course, just pay attention, because anytime you go to sleep, you can end up getting your character killed. And it would be sad if you've, killed Kitava, but you don't even live long enough to run your first map. So, once you've done that, the first step of the Atlas is just simply to explore. You've probably picked up a bunch of maps while you've been running through the storyline content. Kirac will give you one of your choice, and I suggest that you take one that you don't have another copy of. Now, when I was running through in Delirium League, I'd picked up 3 of the 4 different Tier 1 maps. So at the moment, these are Wharf, Jungle Valley, Beach, and Pier. I'd found a couple of Wharves, 1 Jungle Valley, 1 Beach, but I hadn't found a Pier. So I took Kirac's Pier map, and then at this point, I just started running maps. Go in there, explore, run a few maps, kill monsters, steal their loots. But pay attention to how much you can craft maps. A transmute will make the map harder, but it will also add about 35% more loot to what the map will drop. An alchemy orb will make it drop about 50% more loot. So for instance, if we were to take just one of these random maps, let's just take a pier here, this will drop a certain amount of loot because it's got a certain amount of monsters. But if I throw a transmute on it, you notice that now it's got item quantity plus 29%, monster pack size plus 11%. Those 2 bonuses sort of both multiply together to give you an increase to the amount of loot, because you have 111% baseline number of monsters in the zone, and each of them drops 120% of the baseline amount of loot. All told, this means that if my maths is right, you're getting 143.19% of the loot that you would get in a white map. So that's considerably more. Of course, it might have transmuted into a 1 mod map, in which case you get less. And then to take a more difficult version of that, I'll take another Pier map, and this time I'll hit it with an alchemy orb. Now, this time we've got 19% pack size and 49% quantity. So again, assuming that my maths is not totally off the planet wrong, that would be 177%, 177.31% of base loot, or something like that. So it's dropping a lot more loot. And that could have been more if instead of getting a 4 mod map like I've got here, you'll see it's got 4 modifiers: Antagonist, Ceremonial, Rust, and Drought. It could have rolled as a 5 or 6 mod map, in which case it would have had even more loot in it. Of course, you've got to be able to beat the harder monsters. So the first step is just simply to explore. Go around, and you'll notice that you'll have a couple of things will happen. The first one is that you will start completing maps, and those maps will appear on your Atlas. So the Atlas will start to show more of the regions that you can explore. So initially, all you'll see will be the very center. You'll see Wharf, Jungle Valley, Pier, and Beach. If you were to complete Beach first, then you will see lines pointing towards Fungal Hollow and towards self-events, and you might even be able to see Armory there in the distance. But those maps will not be completed, and you won't be able to see past them. Then, once you run more and more maps, you'll be able to see a bit further, and eventually you get to a point similar to what I've got, except just ignore this part in Haywark Hamlet, because that's going to be the next step. So, once you've done this, you're going to also have the opportunity to increase this number. This is your Atlas bonus objectives, and what these do is that they bias map drops from monsters towards higher tier maps in future. And I've currently got 20 at this point, very early in the Delirium League. So 20 means that I have a 20% chance for maps to drop 1 tier higher. If I had 106 instead, then I'd have a guarantee for maps to drop 1 tier higher and a 6% chance for them to drop 2 tiers higher. So as you can see, this is a powerful way of increasing the average tier of maps that you drop. It's not going to have a big influence on individual map drops, but when you take it over a lot of map drops, it will have a big impact. Later on, you'll get an opportunity to sort of partially double dip on this by running very, very, very high tier versions of maps, but you can hold off on that thought for the moment because that's going to be in a much later step. So, step 2. You're going to want to expand to higher tier maps, and for this, you're going to need 2 things. You're going to need Watchtowers. Now, these Watchtowers are things that you'll find as you're exploring the Atlas. There is one of them in each of the octants, so you can see that the Atlas is divided into 8 sections. So there's Haywire Hamlet, Turns End, Lex Proxima, Lex Ajoris, which has not been explored at all on this Atlas, New Vestia, Glenark Cans, Veldo's Rest, and Lyra Arthane, which is also completely unexplored here. Each of these zones has a watchtower in it, and these citadels are found by completing a tier 3 or higher map in each octant. So all you need to do is just go in there, find the watchtower, and you will also meet a new NPC when you do this. This is Zana Kaiserius, who is someone who long-term Path of Exile players will know very well, and she's one of the Forsaken Masters. She's also been the only one of the Forsaken Masters that stayed loyal to your quest over a long period of time. So she will be someone who will sell you maps, and you can actually turbocharge your exploration of the Atlas by talking to her and buying some of the maps that she sells. Sometimes they're a great deal, sometimes less so. So that's the first thing you're going to need. Each of these Watchstones has 4 holes in it that can have a Watchstone socketed into it. However, you're going to need to find these Watchstones, and they aren't unguarded. In order to get the Watchstones, what you're going to have to do is fight one of the Conquerors of the Atlas. There are 5 Conquerors of the Atlas. They're all big bosses. There is Baran the Crusader, who deals lightning damage and is a Templar-themed character. There is Veritania the Redeemer, who deals mostly cold damage and has a couple of kind of nasty attacks. There is Drox the Warlord, who seems to mostly deal physical damage, and there is El Hesman the Hunter, who deals mostly chaos and physical damage. So these are the 4 different conquerors that you can access early in the game, and then there is Cyrus, Awakener of Worlds, who is the end boss of the conquerors. He will not be accessible for quite some time, and possibly the first time you fight him, you'll lose because he'll be miles harder than anything you've fought before. However, Cyrus will become available once you've earned 20 Watchstones, which means that you've beaten up all of the other conquerors 5 times each. So, your first goal is going to be to get all of the different Watchstones. All of the different Watchtowers, and then after that you're going to start working on the Watchstones. So, Watchtowers you find after your first tier 3 or higher boss kill in each octant. Watchstones are found from killing the Conquerors. You focus on the 8 Watchtowers first. If you happen to incidentally kill a Conqueror while you're looking for the Watchtowers, that's great. You got a head start on the 3rd step. However, what you're going to want to do is move your exploration into each of the different octants. So, as you can see, I've found the Watchtower in New Vestia, I've found it in Haywire Hamlet, but I've not yet found it in Lyra Arthane or Lex Ajoris yet. So I will need to run maps in those octants, and as I do that, I will actually immediately get the Watchtower. Additionally, once you've been working on these, you will sometimes get taunted by one of the Conquerors. So they'll pop in and say hello, and then there'll be a whole lot of extra monsters that will attack you. While you're doing this phase, Zana's missions will help you tremendously. So you'll see I've only got one Zana daily mission, but I can talk to Zana, and she will often give me a mission that's in a totally different region of the Atlas, somewhere that I've not yet explored in. If I do that, and that's how I got myself a head start in New Vestia. I think, maybe I got it from a vault. the cage. I think actually my first map in Hayward Hamlet was this here, Phantasmagoria. I believe I got that from finding Zana in a map, and Zana then said, "Oh, yeah, go and run this mission for me," and it happens to be in Phantasmagoria, which is in Hayward Hamlet. Zana will also sell you maps, and sometimes sell you maps that you've not yet had access to. So all of that will be a big bonus that will help speed you up. And if I was to, for instance, purchase a Canyon map from another player or from Zana, Canyon being in the Alexajoris area, then that would tremendously speed me up because I would immediately be able to find the Citadel there. So, to get your first 4 Watchstones, maps can exist at 5 different tiers, at up to 5 different tiers. So, for example, Beach here, you'll see it's tier 1 on my atlas. This can be tier 1, 4, 8, 10, or 14, depending upon how many Watchstones are socketed inside Glenark cans. Now, getting these Watchstones require you to kill Conquerors at certain minimum map tiers. And to start with, the only ones that can be done at level 0, so 0 Watchstones socketed, are the 4 outer octants. So our first goal is going to be to go to Hayward Hamlet, or not just Hayward Hamlet, you can do any of the 4. Go to Hayward Hamlet and run 3 different maps. So I've got an Academy map in my inventory at the moment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this Academy map up. Now this here is the map that's missing here. So this will be my 3rd map that I've run here. The first map that I ran, this area went red after I did it. And that was because Baran popped in and taunted me. Now I'm going to go and start running this Academy. I won't run the whole thing while I'm filming, but you'll be able to see just what happens when a Conqueror taunts, because I'm guaranteed a taunt on this map. Character's not the most powerful one I've ever played, but they're a lot of fun, so that's alright. Oh, Cartographer's Strongbox. Haven't seen one of them in a while. Now, oh, and I've gotten frozen. That's not good. I got away with it. I should have died there, which would have been hilarious. Okay, so let's grab all of these maps. Nice little start to running through. And you'll see that already I have this mission, the Crusader. Talk to Kirac in your hideout to to discover the location of Baran's Citadel. At this point what I'll do is I'll just get myself to a safe spot, and then I'll pause the recording, and I'll come back and proceed at a later point. Okay, so at this point, we've now completed the Academy map, and we didn't actually need to complete it. It was enough just to experience the taunt. But now we're at a point where there's 3 of these maps are being done whilst the area is being taunted, and Kirac is now summoning us for a quest. Go and talk to him, and he will point out the location of both the Watchtower and also the first encounter with the Crusader. And so at this point, you've been told that it is in Phantasmagoria, and all you need to do is go to Zana, and she will tell you that she can open a portal there. So if you travel to Baran's Citadel, you won't need to consume a map for this. She will create a portal to a Phantasmagoria map. Now this Phantasmagoria will be Baran influenced again. So that means that we're going to have all sorts of attacks from the Baronite minions. And they come even from the very start. It's not even 10% of the map. Until you find them, they're there immediately. But otherwise, this will have no map mods on it, and so it will be an easier than usual map. If you're running this in the Delirium League, you'll also have the opportunity to engage with the Delirium content here and try and drag that all the way to the end. And if you're able to do that, then you'll get to fight Baran while he is under the effect of the Delirium. Anyways, at this point, I'm just going to pause until I get to Baran himself, which is going to be after you kill Orethophagia in this map. But for you, it might not be Phantasmagoria, and it might not be Orethophagia. It may be a totally different boss. Okay, now at this point, the Phantasmagoria map is complete, and Orethophagia is dead. And when she dies, as well as dropping her bulbous corpse there, you'll also get a portal to this Crusader's Sanctum. This is a small arena in which you will fight Baran the Crusader. If it wasn't Baran that was active in this area of the Atlas, instead of Baran, let's say it was Veritania, then you would get a portal to the Redeemer's Eyrie. And anyways, you'll be able to go and fight these. They're pretty mean when you fight them at high red tier maps, but you'll be able to take it a bit easier in the low tier maps. So let's just go and actually do the fight. Pretty laggy at the moment, so I may have some deaths. If I do, well, feel free to laugh at me. I won't go into this isn't an actual guide into the mechanics of the boss himself. Hit points are considerable on these guys, but they're not unbelievably high. Just high. Maybe three to 5 times that of a map boss. So I'm just tricking him to get his dangerous zone to be in an area of the arena that is easily dealt with, and then I'll go back to fighting him. If you're a more damage focused character than this... Oh, that was a slam. I thought he was doing his mana runes. That's his mana runes. Let them just get put somewhere that they're pretty harmless. He's doing his slam now. No, he's not slamming. Really not predicting that well. I think they may have changed his AI a little. That's his slam. And yes, I am doing the challenge from last league. If you were playing in the Metamorph League and you encountered a challenge to light up every mana rune, but we'll just do that for something different. And that's lit up everything, and now at this point I think he's almost in cull range. But he wasn't. There he goes. So at this point, you'll notice that he has dropped a Crimson Watchstone. Don't worry if you're ever unable to pick one of these up for whatever reason. Zana will have it for you. That does sometimes happen. He also dropped a Crusader influenced item, which is almost certain to be trash given that it is from a tier 4 map. And so this is just a mace that happens to have the suffix modifier of the Crusade, conversion to fire damage, and also the suffix modifier conditional increased AoE based on having stunned recently. Now, one little side note, if you're interested in the lore of Path of Exile, definitely check out these journals. These are really good, and they'll give you a bit of a sense of the personalities of the conquerors that you're fighting. All of them in lore were our characters from 3.1 through 3.8, so from the previous versions of the Atlas, but that's just a little side effect. Now, at this point, I have the Watchstone, and that is going to open up a whole world of new possibilities. So, these Watchstones that I've looted, and so this one is currently sitting Crimson Watchstone. This is something that can be placed in any of the Watchtowers that I've unlocked. When I do this, it's going to cause all the maps in that area to become a higher tier. Note that it doesn't have to go into Hayward Hamlet. I earned it in Hayward Hamlet, but I can place it in any of the different octants that I've earned the Watchtower for. So, what you're going to want to do at this point, we've done one of the 4 outer octants. You're going to want to do the same procedure in the 3 other outer octants. Doing this will allow you to get your first 4 Watchstones. So go to New Vestia. Run maps until you get attacked by one of Veritania, Drox, and Elhesman. You'll be taunted the first time you do a map, you'll be taunted again the second time, you'll be taunted again the third time, and then after that you'll be presented with a portal to the... well, with the opportunity to get a Citadel fight, just like you saw in that Phantasmagoria with Hayward. Then do the same thing in Lyra Arthane and in Lexajoris. This is going to take you a while. Once you've done all of this, you'll have you'll have your first 4 Watchstones. Now, at this point, you're going to be able to start working on earning other Conqueror fights. When you mouse over the various storage crates for Watchstones that appear, one of these is linked to each of the different octants, so they go Hayward, Turns, Lex, Lexajoris, and so on down. They will tell you For each of the 4 different Watchstone colours that you can get there, red is linked to Baran, blue is Veritania the Redeemer, yellow is Drox the Warlord, and green is Alhesman the Hunter. They will tell you how many Watchstones need to be in an area for that specific Conqueror to spawn. They'll say in turn's end that you need to have at least 1 Watchstone in order to spawn a Conqueror. Now this is actually wrong. You cannot spawn Conquerors on 0 Watchstones on the inner octants under any circumstance. So turn's end, Lex Proxima, Glenark Cans, and Valdo's Rest, these will always be 1 for all of them. Lexajoris though, again, in order to spawn Baran there, I need to have at least 1 Conqueror. However, I could spawn any of the other 3 Conquerors there right now. So, what you're going to do at this point, as I say, is repeat in all 4 octants in order to get your first 4 Watchstones. Once you've done this, you'll also get an interface that allows you to plan for taunts. And let's see if I can demonstrate this by opening a map in the New Vestia region. I believe I own one. I hope I do, because I will need to in order to demonstrate this. I do not own a New Vestia map. I'm just going to pause the video at this point and I'm going to source one. Okay, so now I have a Basilica map. This is one that's in the New Vestia region, and I'm just going to go and quickly start running it. And this should cause a taunt to occur. One of the other Conquerors will taunt me and bring up the new interface. This is new to 3.10, so this is a Basilica map, and the taunt should happen very, very quickly upon entering the zone. Usually you only need to walk a couple of screens away. Kill like 5% of the monsters in the map once you're eligible for the taunt, and it should happen very quickly. Okay, so here's Veritania taunting me. Her taunts are fantastic. She's a really great character, Veritania. And as soon as I'm able to safely do so, I will go and bring up the Atlas interface. That monster needs to die first. So, here we have an interface that shows that the first time that you start a map, it will say that completing 2 more maps will open portals to fight the Redeemer, and that these zones have additional packs of Redeemer monsters for you to fight. So those will be the additional packs that you'll see as we run around the zone. Let's not actually do the Delirium encounter. Snowhawks. These are Veritania. This is a Veritania pack here. Snow Rexes, Snowhawks, and the like. These monsters, and particularly this quite tanky monster in the middle, it's summoning little hawks that will attack you. These are Veritania aligned monsters, and whilst they're pretty easy, they certainly add a lot of monsters onto the map. So, in order to fight Veritania the first time, it's just a matter of doing each of these. After that, using whatever methods necessary, Horizon Orbs, just slowly progressing through Lex Proxima and Valdo's Rest first, whatever you prefer, you want to do the same for Lexajoris and for Turn's End. Lyra Arthane. Once you've done that, then you will have access to your 4 Watchstones. So 3 maps in each of the other zones, and you're good to go. You don't need to do Haywire Hamlet first, it's just coincidence that I did, and you can do them in whatever order you want. Now once you've done all 4, your Awakening level will increase, and this will give you small bonuses when you kill map bosses. It looks like I wasn't in the safest spot, so let's just pause at this point and complete this map. Okay, so at this point, that Basilica map is done. Veritania has now committed herself to New Vestia, and as I run more and different maps in New Vestia, I will find Veritania. And as we discussed on the new progress meter on Veritania, it's only going to take 3 maps. The first one that I've done is already done, that's the yellow one. The next one will have 30 packs of Redeemer monsters, the third one will have 40 packs, and then after that, which is the third and final taunt, Veritania herself will spawn, and I'll be able to fight her exactly the same way that I fought Baran before. So now, the next thing that we need to talk about is how we're going to progress through the Atlas and go from the 4 Watchstones that we'll have when you complete this process yourself, to having 20. 20 is the point at which you will encounter the end boss of the Atlas of Worlds for the first time, Cyrus the Awakener. So, as we were discussing, when you mouse over one of the various octants, it will show you how many Watchstones need to be socketed in that region for you to be able to make progress towards spawning one of the Conquerors there. And also, every time it says 0 Watchstones, actually read that as 1 if it's one of the inner ones. That's a mistake. The game is just telling you the wrong information there. It should be 1 for any of them in turn's end. Now, you're going to need to get maps that are higher than tier 5. At the start of the game, all you've got access to is maps that range from tier 1, such as Jungle Valley, up to tier 5, such as Basilica. In order to raise maps to higher tiers, you're going to need to start socketing Watchstones. When we socket a Watchstone in turn's end, two things happen. Firstly, there's a remapping of the area. Some new maps appear that weren't previously there. So, for example, I believe... which ones are new in here? Wakatiru, is that... oh no, that's not new. No, it's just an unusual topography down there. Atoll becomes new. Atoll appears. So Atoll is not there. You'll notice that Strand connects to Primordial Pool. And then when you add the Crimson Watchstone in there, Primordial Pool is no longer connected to Strand. Instead, you have Atoll in between them. And so it's just a totally different topography. And additionally, there are new maps that just appear like the Atoll map. And about 2/3 of the maps on the Atlas are visible to begin with, and about 1/3 of them are concealed in this way. The more Watchstones that you put in, the more maps will appear in each given octant as well. The layout of them all will change again, and the tiers will go higher. So see here that Wharf is now tier 4, it was previously tier 1. Strand is tier 5, it was previously tier 2. Alleyways is a tier 5. The way that the game allocates map drops is there are various factors that determine how high a tier a map is that drops for you. If you're not currently in a map, normally any map that drops will be tier 1 only. If you're currently in a map, you'll be able to get any map up to that map's tier to drop from any monster. Magic monsters and rare monsters can drop up to +1, and the map's boss can drop up to +2. There tends to be a bias towards the higher tier maps dropping, so if you're in a tier 7 map and the boss drops a map, there'll be a little bit of a bias towards getting a tier 9, but you will also, it's not that strong a bias, you'll often get 8s, 7s, 6s, and even quite frequently get 5s, 4s, 3s, 2s, and even 1s. This is a hard cap. Map drops can't exceed this by any means except a couple of weird things like a Cartographer's Strongbox that has increased levels on it. This bonus objective here will increase your chances of getting higher tier maps at the expense of decreasing your chance to get lower tier maps. However, the only maps that can drop at any given point on your atlas are ones that are currently visible. So you'll see here that on the current state of my atlas, the map Underground Sea is not visible. It's sort of faded there, so you can sort of see it, but it's not been completed. What this means is that Underground Sea can't normally drop. However, there is an exception to this, and that is if I'm running a map that's adjacent to it. So if I wanted to get Underground Seas to drop, one way I could do it is by going and running lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of Jungle Valley maps. And that would help me get an Underground Sea eventually, potentially also a Fields. So if I was running a Jungle Valley and I killed a magic monster, the maps that could drop at the moment would be any tier 1 map that's on my atlas, plus any tier 2 map that I've completed. So Alleyways is no longer a tier 2 map. Strand is no longer a tier 2 map because Turn's End has been upgraded. However, Glenark Cans has Fungal Hollow, it has self-events. Veldo's Rest has Lookout map, is the only completed tier 2. And Lex Proxima has Mausoleum, which is completed. And so is Ashenwood. And Haunted Mansion, so lots of tier 2s. If I'm running if I'm running a Jungle Valley, I can get any of those tier 2s I've completed. Plus I can also get the 2 tier 2s I'm adjacent to. So Fields and Underground Sea. Any of those can drop when I'm running a Jungle Valley. But other tier 2s, even if they're adjacent to a different tier 1, so let's just pretend that Tropical... Oh no, Laboratory. Laboratory is a tier 2 there. So I could not get a Laboratory map from a Jungle Valley at the moment. So what we need to do we want to start running higher tier maps because they give better loot and they'll also let you fight harder conquerors. We need to actually start sourcing higher tier maps. It's not just enough to say, I'm going to run maps in, I'm going to run maps in Turn's End with a Crimson Watchstone in there. I need to actually have higher tier maps, because you need to be running, in order for the conquerors to spawn, you need to be running maps that are the same tier as the Watchstone level of the Atlas. So, for instance, running a tier 3 museum won't help me spawn a conqueror in Turn's End at the moment. I would need to be running a tier 6 museum. And I can only get a tier 6 museum from a tier 5 or higher map generally, or also a boss of a tier 4. So for that reason, what you're going to want to do is, once you've earned all 4 of your Watchstones, you want to put one of them in each of the inner octants. And then you want to start running just the higher tier maps that you've got from the outer octants. So let's say that you were over in New Vestia and you had a couple of spare basilicas. You run some basilicas, and while you're doing that, not every map is going to be guaranteed to be one of the ones you want, but you will get some maps from the inner 4 octants that will be at the higher tier. Once you've got a few of those, start running them, and then Conquerors of the Atlas will spawn there. This is what I call a Conqueror Cycle. Conqueror Cycle is when you run maps in an area that's currently got no influence on it, so it's not coloured in as being claimed by one of the Conquerors. You cause them to taunt you once, you cause them to taunt you twice, 3 times, and then Zana opens a citadel and you go and fight that Conqueror, beat them up, and steal their loot. So, your first cycle at this point is going to be to do a set of Conqueror cycles in each of the 4 inner octants with 1 Watchstone. While you're doing this, you'll earn your 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th Watchstones, and then I'm going to get you to put your 2nd Watchstone in each of these octants, and then run a 2 Watchstone Turn's End Conqueror cycle, a 2 Watchstone Glenark Cans Conqueror cycle, 2 Watchstone Voldo's Rest Conqueror cycle, and a 2 Watchstone Lex Proxima Conqueror cycle. Then repeat at 3 Watchstones in each, and then repeat at 4 Watchstones in each. Once you've done the 4 Watchstone cycle, you'll now own 20 Watchstones. This is a special point at which Cyrus will appear for the first time, and you'll be able to fight him. The portal to the Cyrus encounter will be something that Zana will have a quest for you to do. That will be something that will be a really difficult fight the first time you do it. Don't worry if Cyrus kicks your ass the first time. You'll be able to get revenge, plan, rebuild, and improve your character so you can take him on. And Chaos Resist will help in that encounter, as will learning his attacks so that you can dodge them. So that's the end of step 4. By this point, you should have 20 Watchstones. You should have fought Cyrus and probably lost to him. Now, our next step is going to be to get all 32 Watchstones. And at this point, we've earned 1 in each of the outer 4 octants and 4 in each of the inner 4. So we want to get the other ones in all of the outer octants. All you want to do at this point is move your Watchstones and set up Hayward Hamlet to level 4, New Vestia to 4, Lexajoris to 4, and Lyra Arthane to 4, and go and do exactly the same thing. Do 3 more Conqueror cycles in each of the outer octants, and this will then, each time that you do a Conqueror cycle, it's going to take a little bit longer. Instead of just getting 3 taunts on 3 consecutive maps, you get 3 spread out over 9 maps. You will know in advance which ones you're going to be taunted on, so if you're feeling really strong, you can use your hardest maps when the Conqueror is going to be there, and if you're struggling a bit, you can use your easiest maps. Each time that you do a full set of 4 of these Conqueror cycles, you will get a chance to fight Cyrus, and that is a Cyrus cycle. You'll also notice that you will gain access to a new mechanic, which is called the Awakener level around this point. The Awakener level is something that will amp up the difficulty of map bosses slightly by adding to their health, and will also add considerable additional rewards for each map boss that you kill. These awakening bonuses can be so lucrative towards the end that it's actually quite viable to just bum rush to the boss, killing all the monsters that are on the way, and then pretty much leave the map and start a new map. So, at this point, you've got your 32 Watchstones, you've completed the core of the Atlas. You can now continue spawning the Conquerors and continuing to fight them, and Cyrus will be available once per cycle. Or alternately, you can work on other things such as getting to Shaper or to Elder or to Uber Elder, or to delve into Miko's Mine. You can also customize your atlas in order to configure which maps will drop for you. And there's an important new change that's been made in 3.10 that wasn't available in 3.9, which is the preferred map system. So what you'll need to do in order to unlock the preferred map system is complete all of the maps in a region. When you do this, so your first tier in a zone will become available when you complete all the non-unique maps in the region. That includes the ones that are hidden by default that require additional Watchstones to reveal them. So for instance, Veldo's Rest, one of the maps is in Veldo's Rest is Vaal Temple. Vaal Temple is not available at all until you have 4 Watchstones socketed in Veldo's Rest, and even then it can be pretty tricky to acquire one because it can't drop. You can only get it by corrupting a tier 15 map that is inside Veldo's Rest. When you do this though, you'll have a chance to get to Vaal Temple yourself and go and fight your way through it. There'll also be a second tier of this upgrade that will become available when you complete the harder version that's visible on the map. So you'll see here for Strand, the bonus is for killing the boss of a magic or higher version of this map. So for Strand, you can't do it if the map has just been scoured. And we take something that's got some higher tier maps in it, such as Burial Chambers, which is hiding somewhere around here. Burial Chambers is a tier 7 map when it is 1 Watchstone, and you'll notice that it requires you to kill the boss of the rare version of the map in order to gain the bonus objective. Higher tier maps will require you to complete them as corrupted and rare maps as well. Once you've done all the maps in a region with the bonus objective, you'll get a second bite of the cherry at the preferred map system. You get a third one when you complete all of the maps in the region at their highest tier and with a certain minimum awakening level, so that's total number of Watchstones socketed on the atlas, that will be set for that will vary for each map. You'll get access to that system and you'll be able to see what the minimum awakening level is once you have access to at least 4 Watchstones in the league. And then at that point, you'll be able to start working on those awakening objectives. Although those will be the ones you'll get last by far. You'll pretty much need all 32 Watchstones in order to get this third unlock on the preferred map system. Now what you're able to do then is pick 3 maps that you want to drop more frequently in that area. And you can pick the same map multiple times if you want. So let's say that you really, really like the Basilica map. You could put Basilica map into the New Vestia section, so New Vestia being here. You could put it into slot 1, and then whenever a tier 5 map drops, assuming that you're leaving Basilica at tier 5, so you're not putting any Watchstones in New Vestia, in that case, every time a tier 5 map drops, Basilica will count 10 times when the game is rolling which map to drop for you. At least at the moment. This number is subject to change. This is from GGG, what they've reported. So if you choose it once, the Basilica will appear 10 times. Your other tier 5 maps, such as Canyon, I believe is a tier 5 map over in Lex Ejoris. Canyon will only appear once, but Basilica will appear 10 times. If you have Basilica twice on this list, then it will appear 20 times, and if you have it 3 times, it will appear 30 times. Where this can come in really handy is if you want to pick a map that has extremely good divination cards, such as Burial Chambers, so that it drops 30 times as often as other maps of the same tier, and you can then complete your entire atlas safely, but know that you can then bias your drops so that you get lots and lots and lots and lots of Burial Chambers to run, and you can run them at whatever tier feels comfortable. So if you prefer to run it at tier 7, then you can do that. Alternately, if you prefer to run Burial Chambers as a tier 14 map, I think it is, maybe it's 15 or 16, with a Watchstone count of 4, then in that case, you can run it at that high tier. You can have your whole atlas full of high tier maps, but still have a strong bias towards getting Burial Chambers when you get high tier maps dropping for you. One thing you might want to consider doing is setting it up so that Burial Chambers has 30 times its drop chance as an endgame atlas goal, and Tower, which is over in Lyra Arthane, also has 30 times the normal drop chance. And that way, a large percentage of the high tier maps that you get will be ones that can drop pieces of the Headhunter unique item. Anyways, hopefully that covers everything that you need in order to go from the very end of Act 10 through to having 32 Watchstones and starting to configure your atlas and taking advantage of the preferred map system. If you've got any comments or questions, fire away below. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it there, and I hope you have a good one.